Now, President Barack Obama has begun a week-long trip to Africa, but his visit is being overshadowed by the worsening health of Nelson Mandela. Mr. Obama is due in South Africa tomorrow. Candlelight vigils were held outside the Heart Hospital in Pretoria, where Mr. Mandela is critically ill with a lung infection. Well, after a second evening visit, South African President Jacob Zuma cancelled a trip he was due to make to Mozambique later today. Mr. Zuma's office said that he'd been briefed by the doctors treating the former president. Tribal leaders also went to Mr. Mandela's bedside on Wednesday and said that he was on a life support machine. Well, President Obama arrived in Senegal last night on board Air Force One. He'll also visit Tanzania, but his exact itinerary, especially on his visit to South Africa, remains uncertain because of those concerns about Nelson Mandela's health. Well, Dr. Chido Nwangwu travelled with and covered former President Bill Clinton on trips to Senegal, Nigeria, South Africa and Botswana. He's also the author of the upcoming book, Mandela and Chibi, Footprints of Greatness. And he joins me now via Skype from Houston. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Now, in the light of Nelson Mandela's failing health, how do you think President Obama will be received, especially in South Africa? It's very sensitive.
As a matter of fact, I'm finishing a commentary which basically states that Obama came too late to see the President Nelson Mandela. And the other issue is that of the attention of South Africans, and many Africans are focused on the well-being of Nelson Mandela. And then there is also the issue of avoiding Kenya and avoiding Nigeria. These are two principal regional powers in the African continent. Obama's father is from Kenya. Nigeria is the most populous African country. Those are two major issues of diversion for the president's message.
Well, as he continues with his trip, I mean, what is he hoping to achieve in each of the countries he's visiting?
In terms of Senegal, I think he's trying to show a message of a country that is able to have a unity of some sorts among the various religions in Senegal. In terms of Tanzania, as you know, the Chinese are moving very aggressively in Tanzania with investments, with promises of aid and development, and they are engaged at the grassroots level. In fact, the percentage of Chinese investments in Tanzania is competing favorably against that of the United States. And of course, in South Africa, which is the largest economy in the African continent, it offers the sense of a business trade engagement with the African continent. And of course, an opportunity, hopefully, for the President Obama to meet the very distinguished icon, Nelson Mandela, which I think is a little too late. His handlers did not plan him well enough to have visited Nelson Mandela while he was younger, stronger, more aware, and more engaged with his guests.
Well, you obviously, as I said earlier, are writing your book. You're the author of the book that's soon to be released. Mr. Mandela being a key topic of that book. Give us your overview of the man.
The great thing about him is his grace. He's a man of monumental grace. He's a man who is decent and fair to all persons. As you can imagine, Robert Mugabe attacked him for being too nice and too fair, in his words, to white people, white South Africans. Nelson Mandela, when you visit Robben Island, which I have been to, you will see the level of methodical, state-sponsored malice and wickedness that went after him, that went against him. Yet he's able to come out forgiving, he's able to come out inclusive, he's able to come out focused on a multiracial society. The other meaning of his life, which is important, is the fact that amidst all those, all his power, or his popularity, he refused to stay in office as a president for life. He actually, from behind the scenes, put pressure on some of the leaders of various governments in Africa, including Nigeria specifically, for the leaders to retire and leave the office as the Constitution has stipulated. The other wonderful thing about Mandela is that you can hold on to fair and decent principles in life, be respected by your peers, be respected by your enemies, be respected by all people of fair-mindedness. The other lesson that I think is very instructive about him is his endurance. He does not look at life as a sprint. He looks at it as a long-distance engagement, as a long-distance effort, something that you do with an eye for posterity. Okay. His greatness will reside in our hearts. His greatness will reside in the minds of people of all races, of all colors, of all ideologies, because he has lived and continued to live as a decent man of honor and dignity.
Okay, Dr. Chido, thank you very much for that. Thank you.